Good.
But you know why he's doing that?
It's not like they call Randstad. Just have to come to our stuff.
This regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for February the 24th, 2015 will come to order. I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We welcome you to our meeting tonight, and particularly on, we postponed this a week thinking the weather would get better. Well, it is a little better, but it still has a ways to go. So, but if we postponed it till the ground was completely rid of snow, we might be waiting till about April before we went back, it looks like. So anyway, according to tonight's weather, we have one public hearing scheduled tonight, and that one is regarding Ordinance 15-02, which would set a new schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course. If you are here and wish to make a comment on this, if you would please come to the podium to my left, and I see our Alderman Emeritus, Dr. Cherry, coming forward. We welcome you, Ken.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Kenneth Cherry. I reside at 119 Sam Davis Drive. And first of all, you department heads, I wish you would convey my appreciation for that my lights, my water, gas is running. Alan Ellis, y'all have done a stupendous job keeping the roads clear. As far as the golf fees, I don't think anyone in Springfield cares as much about Legacy Golf Course as I do. I hope it succeeds in any way possible. When I got mention of the new fees, and I don't represent anybody but myself. I'm not here talking for anybody but me. And I'm a senior and I play weekday, and to me that's kind of where you're going to make your money. And when I see a fee that's gone up 30%, that gets my attention. Last year, I paid $22 to play golf at the Legacy during the week, and now it's $26 plus tax, which is that's about $28.52, and I think that's too much. Like the guy that ran for mayor of New York, the rent's too damn high. And I play about 40 rounds a year, not a whole lot, but I will tell you that I will be playing less rounds at the Legacy at $29 than I have played. I have no idea how that affects other seniors. The other thing that concerns me a little bit, I don't own a golf cart, but part of they tried to increase play at the Legacy was to allow people to use personal golf carts out there. And this year, it's already in effect. Now, if you own a golf cart, you pay the same rate as I do that don't own one. I think y'all should give them something where you increase it $3 this year and $3 next year, and by the third year, everybody's the same. Now, in the past, you also allowed me, who did not own a golf cart, to pay a reduced rate if I rode with the person that owned the golf cart. I think that's probably wrong, and I wouldn't expect that. But you need to look at that. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anyone else who has a statement to make with regard to the golf fees? Hearing none, we'll call the public hearing to an end. And now item 1.3 is consideration of the minutes from the special meeting held on January 13th. That was to discuss the progress made and where we still have to go with regard to the overhaul of our sewer system, and then the regular meeting held on January the 20th. Is there a motion that the minutes be approved?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? If you favor the approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say no. Motion carried. And now we move into the legislative portion of the agenda. First, under item 2.1 is a third and final reading on ordinance 14-25, which would regulate development, it amends our codes in order to provide for changes in the National Flood Insurance Program by including references to the flood insurance rate maps, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, now this is the audience third and final reading. It's already been considered on at two other meetings and is ready for final action tonight. Any discussion? Any discussion or comments? Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
And now, 2.2 is ordinance 15-01. This is also a third and final reading. This would establish a new starting time for the regular meetings of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and would change that starting time from 7:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's felt that that would be more in keeping with the schedules of a lot of people. Somebody might say that some of us are getting older up here and we have to get to bed earlier. I don't know. I'm not looking at you on that hand. I'm looking over at James. Thinking that. So, for whatever reason, that's what we have decided to do. Think it's a good idea. Is there any discussion? That would take effect if it passes at our next meeting, the regular March meeting.
Glad to see that move.
All right. Any other comments? Call the roll, please, Ms. Cox. Yes, we do need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Sneed. All right. Discussion has been held. Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Carnell.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg. Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we move now to 2.3. This is a second reading regarding the new schedule of fees and charges proposed for play at the Legacy Golf Course. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any, a second?
Second.
All right, now discussion. Paul?
Mayor, Mr. Kale is here and his staff at the Legacy. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Okay. Lady and gentlemen, any questions? Alderman Trot?
I have a concern. I'm a somewhat amateur golfer myself. And I along with Jim, who spoke earlier, think that the rates are a little bit high, especially for seniors. I play some surrounding golf courses, and $26 plus tax for seniors I find to be maybe a little steep. And I just wonder what kind of adjustment maybe you guys could make on that. And also on the 9-hole rates, $19 plus taxes, I think may be a little steep, because a lot of the guys I play with and all, they're working men, and if they get off and work those factories and all, 9 holes is all they want to play, and to go out and pay like almost $22 for 9 holes, I think would be a little steep. And I just wondering what kind of impact would that have if you adjusted the fees?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's concerning the Legacy. As most of you know, we came on board on December 1st as far as the operating manager for the Legacy. And prior to that, we had done investigative work as far as the facility is concerned in association with the RFP, and intercommunications also with some of the citizens here in the city on what their concerns were about the property, how they saw the property, how they would like to see the property move forward, and so on. As we went through the RFP process, our analysis basically came that there was not a consistency associated with the rate schedule at the Legacy. So that was one of the first things that we wanted to establish in bringing a rate schedule to the board here tonight. Also, is what, in defining the legacy, what is the legacy in the golf industry? Is it just a public golf course? Is it an upscale daily fee golf course? Is it a signature golf course? Well, in our opinion, the city of Springfield and the citizens here should be extremely happy and proud of the facility that they have, and we would define this facility as an upscale daily fee signature golf course. You have Raymond Floyd, who is the designer of this facility. There's not another golf course in this surrounding area that has someone of his caliber as far as designing a golf course. So in doing so, that also puts the burden on the citizens and the taxpayers here in the city of Springfield to maintain that type of facility. One of the things stated in the RFP was that the next management company that would be selected needed to understand that we wanted to operate, the city wanted us to operate the facility with understanding to reduce the tax burden on the taxpayers and try to have the facility being self-sustaining. Also, as I said, by defining the facility, what is the rates that should be charged at this caliber of facility? And through our experience and history in the golf industry, we have come up with the rates associated with this facility. We are not proposing any changes to the current rate schedule that was at the Legacy. What we are proposing is that we create what's called a rack rate, is a term that's used in the golf industry. And then from that rack rate, then we can provide incentives to the patrons to come out in slow times, things like that, at a reduced rate. So you establish the threshold or the highest rate that you have and then discount from there. In making reference to your 9-hole rate, again, it's commonly done in the golf industry because you have 18 holes, you have a staff that has to maintain 18 holes, you have all of the salaries associated with that. So your 9-hole rate is always higher than if you times that by 2 to make an 18-hole rate. You still have all the same cost whether they play 9 or 18. So I understand your concerns from a 9-hole standpoint. We actually have patrons at some of our facilities that come out and pay the 18-hole rate, then get a 9-hole rain check because they're only going to play 9 holes. So therefore, it works out to people that want to put the math or do the math to it, that they could just get a rain check, pay the 18-hole rate, and then get a rain check for 9 holes.
I'd like to make a comment. Well, I wasn't here for the inception of creating it, but I was here today that we shook Raymond Floyd's hand. And he told us, well, we had a signature golf course, one second to none. Not like these other golf courses that's within 10 or 15 miles radius of us. So from that, we have to understand what we have, and we have to pay for what we have. Okay, from my point of view. And another thing too, you were checked out and voted to be a very good managing team. And so, I think we need to step back and let you go ahead on and handle your business and take us where we need to be. Those are the comments I have, okay?
If
I trust that you can do that.
If I could add to that, and one of the things that we bring to the table as far as our management philosophy is we are not standalone.
True.
This is a partnership. True. This is not only the partnership with this board, but the citizens of Springfield. One of the first things we did is we went and are in the process of creating the Legacy Advisory Board. We did not want to select people to sit on this board that were just going to come and pat us on the back and say, let's go. We wanted people to be involved in this board that had strong concerns and feelings about the future of the Legacy. And we had our first meeting, brought them in, discussed our business plan, how we wanted to move forward with the property, some of the things that we going to bring to them as far as added services in evaluating the food and beverage area, junior golf, ladies golf association, men's golf association, things like that that would create loyalty to the facility, to the patrons that participate there. And the meeting went very well. We are in the final processes right now of developing a final board that we will meet with on a monthly basis and listen to their concerns and their input as far as the facility is concerned. So again, it's a partnership, and we are here to make that partnership a success.
It's a partnership, and no disrespect to our citizens, but it's a partnership that's open to attract not just Springfield players, but players from all over. So we have to keep that in mind, and and I understand some of the gripings and want to kind of make it their personal deal, and sometimes I get that the fact they want to turn into a Springfield Country Club type of situation. So I want to get away from all of that. Signature golf course, open to attract other people other than just the citizens here. And we got to grow to that. We just got to mature.
I don't doubt their ability to manage the course. I'm sure they're good at it, great at it. My concern is if you got 200 seniors, just an example, 200 seniors come and play a week, and then you raise those rates real high and you only got 50 seniors come and play a week, what's your gain? I mean, to me, you're losing. I'd rather have 200 at a little cheaper rate than have 50 at a higher rate come play a signature course. And they may bring more with them. I mean, I'm just concerned about the citizens. I know signature course is a great course. It's got a great rating, I'm sure. Raymond Floyd was a good golfer. There's a lot of good golfers in the world that design courses. I mean, so are you saying that this rate is not set in stone, that you're going to make adjustments to it? Or?
Well, we firmly believe that we have established a rate schedule that we can move forward with. As we evaluate the business associated with the facility, if we have to make adjustments to those rates, we definitely will come to this body before we do so and get approval. Again, as you operate a facility, you operate a facility from the standpoint of the standards, the services, and so on that you provide. If the legacy is going to continue to provide upscale services, then we have to charge, I'm not saying upscale rates. Our goal is to provide a $60 experience for $30 to $35. That is our goal. That's what we're going to do. We want the patrons to come there and say, man, I paid too much to play 9 holes. We don't want them to say that. We want them to come there and say, what an experience I had for the rate that I paid to play 9 holes. What service I received, what conditions I received from the standpoint of the golf course. Our experience has proven that the rate schedule that we have put forth to this body for the approval is a fair and equitable rate schedule. That does not mean that there may not be adjustments down the road. We are not blind to that. We certainly want business at the facility.
Well, just a lot of people I represent don't live at the Legacy, and and a lot of them can't afford those houses at the Legacy. So I'm concerned if they like to play golf at the Legacy, which they should be
Well,
able to.
we certainly want them to play golf at the Legacy, and we certainly want to provide the services and the outreach to the community and all that is going to prove to them that these rates are the standards that should be set there at that facility.
I've stated my concern. Thank you.
Yes, sir, and I've heard that.
Ms. Snyder, you
Yes, sir. I was-
closer to the legacy than about everybody else in this room.
And I was on the committee when we hired them, and I commend you for the things you've done that you had promised us you would do from the get-go, having the meetings. We can always come back and adjust these. My concern is definitely like Dr. Cherry is talking about for the people that do own their golf carts. That's concerning. How long will we wait before we come back to this body and decide to change things?
Well, we will continue
When it's not going in the right direction.
to evaluate the operations. Just to address the golf cart situation. Again, one of the things that we communicated to the body when we presented our RFP was that this golf course is a business, and it is here to service the citizens of the city of Springfield, but as I stated earlier, we also want to reduce the burden on the taxpayers as far as the operations is concerned. Our goal would be great if everyone there owned a golf cart. It would save the city $48,000 a year in lease payments. It also would save the city around $35,000 a year in salaries that we have to pay to maintain the current cart fleet and service the patrons, whether they have their own cart or not. So as you evaluate your business and what your expenses are associated with that, as I said earlier, you're trying to reduce the burden of the operations, and as we all know here, the facility has not operated in the last few years at a positive or even close to a break-even standpoint. So,
And I know we've asked you to come back and try to get us to be profitable in the next couple of years, and that's the task you've been assigned. So,
and through the Citizens Advisory Board that we had, the legacy individuals that we invited out, and prior to that, the conversation that we'd had with a lot of the patrons, their comments were that it's not necessarily that we mind paying for the golf cart. We like the convenience of being able to bring our personal cart from our house up to the facility. Our clubs are loaded on it. It's just a convenience to have that. Again, understanding the operational expenses to operate the facility, we've got to, in our opinion, we've got to recognize revenue from that in order for it to be a viable option to pay for the amenities that you have there now.
okay.
All right, are there other questions? Okay, Jeff?
On the rate, you're talking about a rain check, senior 18 holes at $26. If you buy that and ask for a rain check, you're paying for $13. How long is that rain check good for?
It's good for a year from the date of issue.
Okay.
And again, it's posted on their rain check. It has an expiration date on there.
Bruce, did you have anything? Clay?
No comments.
Okay, and then back with James.
And in fairness to, every managerial move needs some time to really see that their plan is going to work out, okay? So what I'm saying is, give you a chance. Give you a chance to show us where we can be. And don't start fighting from the onset, okay? And then after we give you a certain length of time, then we can come back. See, but just don't stifle you from the beginning.
All right, other comments before we, Clay, did you?
Thanks, Juan. The proposed fees, were these current fees proposed by the golf course selection committee that golf course committee that was set up? Is that who worked with and came up with these fees?
That's correct. We went and called in a group of patrons that play at the Legacy. Some homeowners, some that were not homeowners. We had a meeting with them and went over all of the rate schedules. We actually went in and even adjusted the rate schedule in adding another category for the senior weekday as far as annual pass is concerned, based on the comments that they expressed to us in the conversation that we had that night.
What data did you use to come up with these figures? Is this a figure that, assuming you had the same number of plays, it will get the golf course to a break-even point, or is this a set of fees that's supposed to be comparative to the golf courses in the area?
I would respond to that as both. I do not see the Legacy being operated in the next year at a break-even standpoint.
Well, there was a comment made earlier that your job was to bring it back to a profitable level. It's never made a profit. It's always been taxpayer subsidized. So I don't have the illusion that Solomon couldn't bring it back to a profitable level. So these fees usually in the past were put in some kind of a format that showed the comparative charts to their other areas. What's presented to us, I don't see the comparative, I just see what's proposed. I make a motion to defer the second reading until, or third reading, until we can get the other proposals side by side for a comparative and more informed decision. Is there, made a motion, Mayor.
I've got it. Is there a second to his motion to defer?
Second.
It's second. Now, what impact would that have us, Paul? Where does that leave us as far as the rate schedule which to operate?
Well, we wanted to have a schedule really by March 1st. I mean, when the snow melts, we'll be ready to start golf season. We need a rate schedule. Heat it now. And, we've got something built into the schedule as well. I mean, I really, my own philosophy, I just think, they've taken a reasonable approach. We need to let them try to do what they need to do. We also have in here, if you look at the rate schedule, that from time to time, if need be, they can impose a special fee. I mean, they don't want to be doing that every day. They want to have established fees, but they can react to certain things. My suggestion is, my suggestion is to take the fees and move on so that we can start.
All right, but let me ask you this question. If this motion to defer passes and we do not act on this tonight, then what rate schedule is in effect?
Well, I guess the old rate schedule is still in effect.
Okay. All right. We have a motion to defer, and it has been duly seconded. Any discussion on the all right, you're going to be asked now to vote on the deferral. If you favor the deferral, vote aye. Your name is called. If you're opposed, vote no.
Carnell,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Sneed,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
Snyder,
We're voting to defer,
To
correct?
defer.
No.
Craig,
No.
Hubbard,
No.
passed to defer 5-2.
All right.
If I could just add to that as far as the rates. I mean, the rates, we are not proposing an increase in rates. The rates are the same as what was in effect at the Legacy prior to this submittal. Now, there has been some proposals as far as sales tax and things like that, which was an encumbered expense upon the city associated with the property. And again, as we look at a comparable rate to other facilities in this surrounding area, there's not another facility in the surrounding area that rates up to the Legacy. So that's going to be difficult to do a comparable to.
Okay. All right. It has been deferred. We thank you for your presentation, and we will, at the next, consider this at our next meeting. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it was deferred on the purpose of bringing it back with a chart and some kind of comparative. If anything's new, it would stand out. If it's
That's what
anything
your
left,
comment
that's right.
refers to, yes. All right.
On the vote, I thought she said 5-2, but I thought there was 4-3. 4-3.
I think it lost, but it was 4-3, not 5-2. I think you're right. Thank you for the correction. Connie, I think that was 4-3. The no votes were Ann and Jim. Got it?
And Hubbard? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Passed 4-3.
At what point do we bring back this comparative
The next meeting.
next
The
meeting?
next meeting, which will be in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, March 17th. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, we move now to 2.4, and that is to take action on, this is a first reading on ordinance 15-03, which would amend certain budgets, departmental budgets for the current fiscal year. It will be read in its entirety by our city clerk.
Ordinance 15-03, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015 annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund and utility fund budgets. Whereas it is necessary to amend the city of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2015 in order to meet the requirements of the city charter. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee, that the city of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2015 is hereby amended to make necessary changes to revenue and expenditures within the general fund departments and utility fund departments as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
All right, you've heard the reading of the ordinance. Is there a motion that be considered?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to explain the reason for the amendment. This pertains to two items, one of which will come up under the consent agenda if the board so approves. But the first has to deal with the library roof construction. The board voted back in November, I believe, to repair the existing roof of the library at the same time that the new roof was being installed. That amount was, our share of that 50% was $50,197. You see under general government expense that $50,197 has been added, increasing the general government expense from $513,270 to $563,467. And that was going to be on a note. So you see that the revenue sale of notes has been increased by $50,197, and the total general fund revenue has also been increased $50,197. Now the gas operating fund, we've had an unusual situation. We budgeted and sold a note to purchase a dump truck. The dump truck that was delivered to us was essentially a lemon. We refused to accept it, and we did not take that. So we still have the money available to purchase equipment. Well, in the meantime, we found out that we actually have more of a need for a backhoe, which will be slightly less than $94,000 in the $91,000 amount, and you will see that later in the agenda. But you can see we are just taking out of reserves now because they were essentially, that money was borrowed, put into the reserve fund, and was supposed to have been spent last year. So therefore, the reserve fund is going to increase the gas department budget by $94,659. In the backhoe, we've got the $94,659 for the dump truck, that amount, but the backhoe will actually be a little over $91,000. So that's the reason for the amendment.
All right, any questions or comments regarding this item on first?
It was gas department, right?
Yes. That's correct. Any questions or comments before we vote? This will be back before us 2 additional times. Call the roll, Ms. Connie.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Okay, 2.5 is Resolution 15-01, and to declare certain property as surplus and authorize the disposal thereof. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll, Connie.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Snyder. Pass 7-0.
All right. Now, 2.6 is covering Resolution 15-02. This would authorize the purchase of prepaid natural gas from the Tennessee Energy Acquisition Corporation and approving the execution and delivery of a natural gas supply agreement related to said purchase and related matters. Is there a motion there?
So moved.
And a second? Is there a second? Duly seconded. Paul, do you want to comment or?
I would. Thank you, Mayor, and I may call on Greg to assist me at some point. But the purpose of the Tennessee Energy Acquisition Corporation is to buy large amounts of natural gas in volumes that we can purchase it under index. And this particular contract, Greg, states that we will purchase gas at no less than 12.5 cents under index. Now this...
That's correct. We're using TAC to manage our transactions, so we're actually see 15 cents. There's a 3 cents difference, but they wanted to give you worst case scenario with 12 cents in case we ever wanted to go out and manage our own nominations and so forth. But that's the reason for the 12 cents, but you are correct.
And the purpose of the resolution is basically to find out who's interested in participating in this. They're trying to negotiate a contract with the Clark Mobile County's gas district in Alabama. And if we can get enough participants, then that can be finalized. So basically, if the contract falls through, we don't get enough participants, then we simply, the resolution will not be effective.
All right,
We think that it'll be there, but, and our volumes were subject to that once that's approved, but we'll just have to see how all the 19 member utilities, respond.
All right, are there comments?
Yes, since I'm one of the participants that attend these TAC meetings and stuff, doing a good job, Greg. We're a major player. We're definitely a major player in that, so.
All right, any other comments? Thank you for that. You're looking for action then on this? Let's call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
We move now to the administrative portion of the agenda. There are 19 items on that. And the first is the monthly consideration of adjusting retail electric rates of our electric department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by TVA. Mr. Gardner?
We're going to see a decrease of 0.83% this month.
Well, that's good. Is this 2 months in a row you brought a decrease?
We're trying to keep it going.
All right. That competition you're having with the gas departments look like working out pretty
There's
good.
no competition at all.
Well,
It's on.
it's on now, Greg. You've been challenged. All right. Is there a motion that this be acted on?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, similarly, 3.2 is the monthly adjustment of gas rates for the Springfield Gas Department. Greg?
I can't help but smile. We're down 13.3%.
13.3.
And on top of that, this is the second month of our reduction on our giving back to our customers at 45% off their normal bill.
Look at you, show out there.
Robert, I think you got
No comment.
You missed note.
Hey, that's that when you get it.
it. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All right. Anybody want to argue with this? Okay. I'll ask Connie to call the roll.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Snyder. Carneal.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right. 3.3, discuss and possibly act on the request from the Water and Wastewater Department to authorize a proposal from S&C Electric to modify the operating parameters of the city's, how do you pronounce that? DST is three constants. Where are the vowels in this? Well, whatever it is, in the amount of $14,000. Now, you all want to explain it farther, you're welcome to it there, Roger.
The Carmen Electric Membership Corporation is upgrading the the electric distribution lines in the northern part of the county. We're on the end of one of the lines, and we have been operating under the provisions of a court order for the last 13 or 14 years. when we operate any one of our 800 horsepower motors out there without the benefit of a capacitor bank to start it, it causes a brownout. The lights will dim. It draws too much current to start the motor. Court order requires us to use a type of capacitor system to start an 800 horse motor, and then once it's started, it can continue to run on line power. With Carmel Electric, they're increasing the voltage out there from about 7,200 to 14,400. S&C we bought a capacity unit called the D-StatCom from S&C about 3 or 4 years ago at a cost of $330,000. It replaced the old unit that was really giving us so many problems. It was functionally useless. D-StatCom set up S&C set up the D-StatCom based on a 7,200 volt system. With it going to 14,400 volts, S&C is concerned that there could be damage. And I'm not an electrical engineer, but it has something to do with fault currents and all this sort of stuff. They say to keep that from happening, it'll cost them $14,000. They can do, I think, all the programming from their office down in Alabama, but this is something we really need to happen so we don't damage the D-StatCom unit. If that D-StatCom unit is not functional, we have to run an 800 horsepower motor off a diesel generator. We have a huge diesel generator that sucks diesel like you wouldn't believe.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion then? If you favor this item, then vote aye. If you oppose, vote no.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hale.
Yes.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.4 is to discuss and possibly act on the condition of private streets that are in the Westgate neighborhood. Paul, do you want to speak on this, or?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this has been an issue that we've been made aware of 3 or 4 years ago when the roads started to get bad. A lot of people aren't aware that the roads in that area around the nursing home and the surrounding area are private streets, and they are not being well maintained. And if you can take a look at a map arrow map that Adam has provided, and Adam and his staff went out and took some pictures, you can see how it's all alligator cracks. They've been repairing the road for the last few years, not by resurfacing the asphalt, but by filling in with concrete. So you have an asphalt road with concrete, repair that doesn't really hold. And so you've got this massive amount of deteriorating streets in that area. I know we get a lot of criticism because, as you head towards the nursing home, as you just get inside, as you just get inside there, it's a private street, and people think that's a public street. So I think, Adam, we're recommending that we post a sign that, it starts where the private street starts, where people know. But we need to start thinking in the next few months what legal options we have to possibly require that those roads be paved. And so I'm not really expecting any action out of the board tonight, just wanted to make you aware of it. If you have a chance to drive over there, take a look at those private streets, please do so. And I think we may have some legal avenues we can take.
Don't go over about 3 miles an hour. That's pretty rough.
The private signs were posted years ago. They're up there now.
Okay.
They're already there.
Okay.
Comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, is anyone aware of, I'm getting some word that there's a possibility there was a lawsuit years ago by some of the tenants who in most of their people who live there are assisted living, can't afford to hire kind of representation that we have here. But I think there was a lawsuit some years back that just right before it got to court was settled out of court. Has anybody ever heard of that?
I just heard there was a serious problem, and we you know,
And then after,
didn't have a good
that might
avenue
be
to
something to
solve it.
look at and follow up where that was left off, if that's something that was in the logbook somewhere.
Okay, any other comments? Thanks for the update then, Paul, and that is a matter that needs to be worked on if it does, and if it needs legal action, so be it. All right, the next item is 3.5, and this is to discuss and possibly act on a proposal to supplement the original engineering agreement with Gresham Smith and Partners for the final section of the Springfield Greenway project for which we have been approved. Is that coming from which department?
Well, this is through the bonds.
Okay.
The total project, to get this wrapped up, is about $1,756,000. We have borrowed our 20%, about $350,000 for the match. And most of the design work has been completed, so it's a small engineering fee. But there are still details that have to be worked out on this contract because it's been so long since we last built the last portion, which was 2004 approximately.
Approximately 2004, we actually let the contract all the way out to Branch from Garner Street Park, and that was in this original contract. We had to cut it back to 9th Avenue where it terminates now. Terminated here because of dollars, so that's where we've been. So a lot of the work will have to be redone on the NEPA, which is all the historicals and all that thing. The right-of-way was purchased back in early 2000. She estimated about 65 or 2/3 of the work would have to be redone on the project. But again, it's about half the project of what it was before. We have combined 4 different federal grants that we've gotten to get to the $1,700,000. And we don't know how far that will go, but we feel like that will get to Bransford. Now, the biggest, you remember we brought this up before, the biggest catch was the railroad. We don't have a handle on that. Even our engineer won't even give us a handle on that. They have no, we have to go to the Arrow Road. They will have to do a contract they have to do all the design and supervise and do all the construction inside their right of way. So that's over and above this engineering work. Plus now the feds require us to hire engineering firms to do all the inspection on the work.
All right, and for the public's benefit, this would cover then the route that it would begin at 9th and South Main, where it presently stops. Proceed down and across the railroad at 10th Avenue, and then go all the way to Central. And going west on Central to the intersection with John Patterson, you make a left there and follow it down to the Branstad Community Center.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's it.
No plans to extend it beyond that?
Well, it says in here final, but that's a misquote because the original plan that was submitted to the state back, when was that, Paul? In the late 90s? Showed it going on out to the YMCA, so.
Well, no, it didn't. I respectfully disagree. What happened was obviously in getting it there, we were always thinking, and you're correct in the fact that, yeah, we were thinking that the next, if we could get another grant, we would take it as far as the YMCA, so you're correct there. But the original $4 million contract was to go to Bransford. That was the original amount.
Mr. Mayor, did I understand Mr. Ellis say that you said 2/3 of the work, engineering work on the project from where the Greenway is now to where it's going to go at Bransford will have to be redone?
That's correct. Everything, since it's been 10 years,
So
all the NEPA,
it's possible we could reroute this and not cross the railroad tracks.
No way. We tried that. We tried to skip the railroad.
You could go down the north side of the tracks, go under the bridge at 5th Avenue, and possibly use there's 4 acres that I own behind the cemetery that you could possibly put something going through there and make that trail come out that way. You couldn't route that and save $100,000 and $200,000 just across the tracks and go that way?
We'll look at it again if y'all want us to, but this is where the plan has been laid out. And we've looked at other routes. Originally, too, if you remember, Paulie was going down Cheatham Street. It was looked at different routes all along, and this is the way we came up with. I don't think by the time you went as far as you're saying, it would be any savings at all.
But, I mean, I'm talking also the safety of people trying to cross the tracks too. But there's also a tunnel behind 7th Avenue that's just short of squatting down and going through if it was dug out a little bit in that ditch behind the cemetery, and go up through those woods behind the cemetery and pop right out at Brantford Avenue.
Okay, but keep in mind, this is a federal thing.
Right, but if it's all going to have to be redone, this is all something that's in the realm of possibility, if we're going to have to redo that much engineering.
That's if you could keep it pretty close to it, the route, that might be fine, but going to that extent, like you'll be moving it several blocks out of the lake, so you're going to have cost with that as well.
Well, I didn't say there wasn't going to be issues with it. I'm just stating a fact. If we've got to do 2/3 of the engineering, reroute it where you don't have to cross the tracks and spend half of what it takes to get from where it is now to Brantford just to cross the tracks.
Paul?
We will lose money if we do not get this thing going. We have bought right-of-way. This has been installed for 10 years. We need to finish the project. The biggest problem is the railroad, which we never even really spent as much as we need to spend on the railroad. So we did have some costs. They did start some engineering before we stated we wouldn't do the full project the last time. So the fact is, if we don't act now and follow through, there's every reason that we're going to lose some money and not be able to get this thing done. We need to just finish a project that we start.
All right, now, question. Alan, when you refer to the engineering cost, roughly what are we talking about? Well, give me a ballpark figure.
Oh, the engineering?
Having to redo that much of the engineering. What are you talking about?
Well, she estimated about 70% or 2/3 of the work she's got to redo. You remember, I know any time you're dealing with feds, I don't know who's ever here dealt with them, you got to go through and redo these NEPA plans, which is historical, fish, all of the your groups you got to go back through. If you buy right away, you've got to spend a tremendous amount of money just to discover, make sure you're not doing anything here and there. And the other is, the plans that we had already done was developed not with the TDOT section. Now, everything under the new rules has to be done by TDOT item numbers and TDOT specifications. And all has to be changed. The actual plans, the actual locations, all of that doesn't change. The plan, it doesn't change. But all of these programs, you've got to go back and redo.
All right, but tell me this, though, still, back to the question. What are we talking about? What was the allotment for engineering in the first place? Do you?
I couldn't remember. That goes back to the 90s, late 90s when that was done.
Are you talking about $100,000? Are you talking about $500,000? What are we talking about?
I couldn't mention.
Okay. Paul, do you
Well, I think we're leaving them with the impression that all this money is going to engineering. It's not.
No, 74,000.
Yeah, right.
We got here.
I mean, so the fact is, we got to redo a few things that, because they're 10 years old, they have to be redone.
And what's the reference to 74,000?
That's to redo the small things that have to be redone again because they're out of date.
Yeah.
Like the environmental.
Well, that's not a major thing compared to what this is at all.
Not.
We spend a lot, like you said, this thing is drug on, and we thought we'd lost it. The governor comes out and tells us we got it again. So we have it. I don't think we better dilly-dally with this.
Well, we've had to add 4 different funds together with this to get it up to this number. The governor's fund was only 700 and some thousand. No, it was $1,103,000.
Yeah.
Of the $1,000,007, we had to combine some of the old monies.
So I don't want to risk losing that again over $74,000.
But in answer to you, Clay, it's only $74,000 as far as this engineering, and we'll have to come back and do some more for the railroad when they get something negotiated there. I don't think for that difference amount of money, you could go down and go on.
Okay, well, you're at Main Street, and the next street over is Cheatham.
Correct.
And we own the property at Cheatham, that's one block. They got the cemetery on one side if you're gonna cross the tracks. And then you've got Better Block, and then at the bottom of the hill behind Better Block is a tunnel that could go up to the woods, and I'd give you the land to come out, and it'd pop you right out behind Willie Mason's barber shop.
Mr. Mayor.
All right,
It's not
let's,
It's not a pedestrian tunnel, it's a drainage structure.
I didn't say there wasn't issues with it, but if you've got to spend $200,000 just to cross the tracks, it's a viable option when you own the other land.
All right, I'm going to stop and say, we need a motion now so we can proceed on this and to act on it one way or the other. Okay?
Second.
Motion's made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Snyder. Any further discussion
Yes,
before
sir.
we vote?
We went out and accepted the check from the governor
Right?
with this plan.
That's right.
Well,
This has been the plan that the governor's office approved.
Well, that's exactly
We
right.
turned it in to the state.
And this is a part of the original, stick with the original plan. As Alan was saying, stop backtracking. So we need to go ahead and move. That's my vote.
All right, is there anything further before we vote?
yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Hubbard referred to the original plan. The original plan is being changed by engineering, it's being changed by the railroad crossing continually to increase. Every time you go to the railroad, it's more money. It went from like 100,000 to 150. Last thing we thought it was like about 200. It's just some crazy prices just to put some crossing gates just across the tracks. That's money could be better spent, I think, in walkway. The purpose of the project was walkway. It wasn't to get it to go in front of certain people's property.
All right, we have discussed that, I believe, enough. Unless there's something other pertinent, I'm going to call for the question. If you favor this proposal, vote aye. If you are opposed, vote no.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
No.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Snyder. Pass 6-1.
All right, 3.6 now. Discuss and possibly action on a proposal from Gresham Smith for task order number 10 to provide bidding and construction-related services for Phase 3, the rehabilitation of sewers in sewer subbasins 7, 9, 10, and 11. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on that? Roger is before you.
How's it going, Roger?
We are doing a remarkably good job of removing infiltration and flow. Preliminary results on the first contract 1A, which is over on Linda Lane and that area is over in there, we have removed on a, if we were to have a lot of rainfall and then groundwater infiltration inflow, we have removed on about 800,000 gallons per day. The reduced flows are showing up at the sewer plant on an average daily basis, so it's been a remarkable event so far.
All right. Any further questions? Let's call for the roll.
Snyder. Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
3.7 is to discuss and possibly take action on a proposal from Gresham Smith for task order number 11 to provide design services for 2 sewage holding tanks. You remember the discussion of that when we had the special meeting. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Head.
Yes.
Carnell.
Aye.
Snyder. Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, now 3.8 is to discuss and possibly act on a proposed contract with Community Development Partners and LLC for administrative and program management services. What's the description of this?
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, we are going to, as we informed the board before, there is some money available through the state for these projects, which is around 1% money. However, there are a few strings attached, and we have to meet some federal regulations, federal guidelines, and to do so, we're going to need a little help from a company that does this on a regular basis, is used to working with TDEC on this. We took a request for a proposal last year, and we are getting ready now, if we can get this contract approved, to meet with the state next week to put together a couple of programs and see if we can get the 1% money for the sewer rehab. And of course, the company that we actually got one response from the RFP, but they're a very experienced company, and we are recommending them for this project. This will be based on first two contracts that will be funded with the state. If we get that funding in the amount of $60,000, you have an explanation of the services that they provide in the following pages behind my memo.
All right, is there a motion we proceed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion now on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Sneed.
This contract is to, this proposed motion is a proposal to subcontract and hire this group to help facilitate gaining some money from the federal government, because there's just some issues there. Is that what this is?
It's a state revolving loan fund, and although the interest rate is good and it's going to be very advantageous for us, there are certain guidelines that we're going to have to follow, and they're going to have to be monitored carefully, and we're going to need some direction and assistance in doing that. This company provides those services. They've done it for over, I guess, 400 projects over a number of decades.
Now, this company wants $60,000. What are we going to try to, what does the 1% represent?
1% is the interest that we pay on our debt service for the money, rather than going to the market and paying about 3%.
Right. And there's no one on staff that knows how to negotiate with these other governmental agencies that we have to subcontract it?
It's not a negotiation. It's administrative regulations that you have to meet. Just like we have hired Gresham Smith and Partners to prepare policies and things that we need to have to satisfy the federal government, we're going to have somebody help audit what we do under this state revolving fund money, and that's what they do. We have a representative here, Betsy Wigington. If you have any questions of her, I'm sure she'll be glad to answer those questions.
Let me draw your attention to attachment 1 on the contract. That kind of gives a function by function breakout, as well as a dollar cost for each of the functions. This is a state-managed loan program that is funded by the Environmental Protection Agency. So it is federal funds that go to the state for management. And anytime you have federal funds, or even that matter, state funds, you're going to have a lot of red tape. Now, one of the biggest red tape involved is called the Davis-Bacon Act. When I got started with the state back in with the Construction Grants and Loan Program back in 1978, EPA was giving out grants, and the one real big sticking factor was the Davis-Bacon Wage Act. The Davis-Bacon Wage Act basically says that you have to provide, the contractor or any project has to provide the prevailing labor wage rates on any contract. Now, we may not be a labor state, we may be a labor state, that's irrelevant. This is a federal requirement. Now, there are a bunch of requirements for the Davis-Bacon. If you look under number 3, construction Davis-Bacon compliance, what they're planning on doing, request wage determination, attend bid opening, prepare bid tab, notice of contract, prepare minute. Now, this is one of the real important things. Conduct monthly construction contract employee interviews. This company will be contracted, and by way of Davis-Bacon, to get with the employees of the contractor. Once we hire somebody to do work, to talk with the actual employees doing the work and making sure that they're getting paid according to Davis-Bacon. Now, that Davis-Bacon usually is higher than normal wage rates, but generally here in Tennessee, they're going to be about the same. Letter I, check weekly payrolls and cross-check with interviews. So they're going to be looking at payrolls, and we talk with individual contractors, works with the contractors. This is something we have no experience at all doing. We just do not know how to do this. And we really can't gain that expertise.
All right. Let me ask you a question here, Roger. What we're trying to do, and I think Mr. Sneed's concern is, more government red tape, and we're paying, what did you say for this,
60,000 based on 2 contracts.
But if this money could be had then through this method at 1%, what did we pay on that $19 million issue that we did not too long ago? What was the rate of interest?
2.86%.
2.86 on 19 million. What do you think the difference? I mean, we're dealing with a very small, if by spending this amount of money opens the door for us to do all of the extra red tape and all that's necessary to use this avenue to change rates from between 2 and 3% down to 1%, I think the 64,000 or whatever it is will be a drop in the bucket. I don't like it either, but I don't see any way to avoid that.
The Gresham Smith and Partners has submitted a request to the state on our behalf requesting to be funded at the rate of $20 million for the next part. So if you just do simple math, 1% of 20 million is $200,000. 2.5% is 450, 500,000. So, we're going to get a good rate with the state revolving fund, but we just don't have the expertise of dealing with all the red tape.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. All right, we have a motion second on this. Wasn't not letting you speak, but I was trying to solve this problem right up here, Betsy. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? If you favor this, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote no.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Snyder. Aye. Carneal.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we moved now to 3.9 on the next page. This proposal is from GRW Engineers to provide the engineering services for painting the 17th Avenue water tank, and the price quoted is $41,500. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Sneed.
Why are we not bidding this out?
We had hired, well, this is an engineering contract, and we're not required to bid out engineering contracts, but we had hired GRW about 7 years ago to do this same sort of work when we repainted our York Road tank out on Highway 49 and the 8th Avenue tank right over here that's got the yellow jacket emblem and all that sort of stuff. They did a good job then. I just thought with their experience and our working relationship, we just bring them back again.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, have a motion?
Yes.
1 second. All right, please call the roll.
Carneal.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Sneed.
No.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder. Aye. Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 6-1.
Okay. 310 is to discuss action on the ratification of a change order for the Bransford Community Center roof. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Snyder. Aye. Carneal.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Trotter. Pass 7-0.
311 is to discuss and possibly act on the reallocation of the remaining money in the GO bonds of 2013. Paul, do you want to make a statement on that before we decide what to do with that?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. Second paragraph describes what the board originally identified as the projects with the bonds. And in the first paragraph, when we sold the bonds, the financial advisor and the bond counsel come up with wording general wording that can be used for those projects or similar type of projects. So the second paragraph describes what we originally were going to use the bonds for, projects. And then if you read up at the top, you've got a little more flexibility, and I'll just read it. The bonds were issued to provide funds for the following purposes. And remember, these are not project specific. So as long as you comply with some sort of purpose that's in this first paragraph, you're going to be okay to use the bond money. So it says improvements to the issuer's water and sewer system, construction of and improvements to equipping of public buildings and facilities, improvements to and equipping of parks and other recreational athletic facilities, including without limitation a grant to Robertson County, Tennessee for improvements to Springfield High School athletic facilities, construction and improvements to sidewalks, acquisition of all property, real and personal, or pertinent thereto, or connected with such public works projects, payment of legal, fiscal, administrative, architectural, and engineering costs incident thereto, reimbursement to the issuer for funds previously expended for any of the foregoing, and payment of costs incident to the issuance and sale of the bonds. So you can reallocate money for any of the specific programs, projects that are in paragraph 2, or you can spend it on similar projects described in paragraph 1.
All right, are you asking tonight, or are you saying for us to look at the projects that it's been allocated for and see where the balance is and come back at a subsequent meeting and give you a sense of direction?
Well, let me explain what I have provided to you. And if you look at the GO bonds, I keep a spreadsheet on all the bond sales that we have and what we spent what the projects were and how much we spent. If you look at 2013, you see it's split two ways. A certain amount for water, wastewater, and general fund. We know we're going to be spending all the water and wastewater. The only funds that we have left in general fund that have not been expended, fully expended, are the funds to actually construct an animal control facility in city sidewalks. So we have $407,567 remaining that were previously allocated to the animal control shelter, and then we've got $75,611 available for citywide sidewalks. And you can expend those monies for, as long as they comply with what's in paragraph 1, you can expend for whatever you want.
So the total, well, can you give me that again?
Yes, sir. It would be, right now we're looking at, on the table, $483,178.
Okay. All right. I don't know that anybody is prepared to try to say tonight, spend it on any particular thing, but I think you ought to keep that before us. And we need to come to a conclusion pretty soon on how to spend this money that has not been spent.
Yeah, we've got about another year to try and get something committed.
What you got?
I was prepared because as I look at one of the primary things that really make our city attractive, the recreation department, all these things that we have sort of table and expanding our parks and stuff, and some sidewalks. So I was sort of in favor of
Tony
looking
Phelps,
up.
did you give him a pep talk before the meeting?
No, James Hubbard utilized those parks almost every day. So I see it there.
I think it would be wise to, this is just an idea, to look at all what's remaining on the table and come back with a good suggestion from each of you next time and see why we put our heads together and do that. I don't believe we're really prepared to do that tonight. That's a personal opinion. All right. Beg pardon? Let's take a 5-minute break, please. We'll stick to that 5 minutes. Get late, Carolyn Scott's got.
I don't know, I hate to lose them in that part of town, but I can understand something, that location might be better for them.
Thank you, I'll get this. By my calculation, we've got about 8 or 9 more things to vote on, and some people want to get out of here before too long, so if I can have your full attention, we're going to continue to move forward. James Hubbard had asked that item 312 be put on the agenda. James, do you want to speak to this? There's no vote in this. This is just a comment.
No vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so glad that the struggle is over with the desegregation situation. Now we're pointed in the right direction. But I just want to reemphasize, as leaders of this town, that education is our basic driving force. Economics 101, supply and demand. I watched Saturday as the governors of all 50 states were talking about education. And, you know, I'm coming down now. I'm not as emotional as I was for the last 6 years. But we need to keep up front, specifically my colleagues. We need to go into our wards and remind the people that, you know, we have some work to do. We have to demand that all of these things that this Board of Education is supposed to do, that they do it. Now, one thing that we have to really keep up front as we look at this, okay, I'm looking at it right here. You know, the district must, number one, they must create the buildings that we need. The administrators and faculty should be representation of all ethnicities that attend the school. We need more African American teachers. We have a large Hispanic population, and we need those teachers. Also, professional development. Our school system president was not sensitive to cultural knowledge. So it's demanded that they take this. So even though I would accept what has been accepted by the board, okay, to make it equal, at least equal. But we still got a lot of work to do. And as I look at these 6 years of failure, 6 years of crippling our kids, it's nothing to take lightly. See, we have to think about, in our mindsets as leaders, as what we can become. You can't become anything if you're illiterate. Yes, we have a certain amount of our kids passing, but we have so many crippled generations. And I'm so sick and tired of talking about the crime rate. Illiteracy and deprivation of being educated fosters criminality and all the rest of our welfare things. See, so you up the ante, then you'll see all of this go away. Okay? The burden, and I'm saying this publicly, the burden, we should drive it from our bully pulpits, and we also to demand that our citizens step up. I know it starts at home, but the leadership should formulate. We should set the bar and make sure that we don't miss that. And then I listened to our governor as he was bragging about Tennessee, you know, talking about, well, we're bringing people. Well, you know, you have to have an educated workforce. We're trying to get our kids so that if our kids want to be whatever, that they can come back here, that they can have the disciplines and come back here to be the doctors and lawyers and stuff. Not just set the standards, well, you know, it's okay. We have to be globally competitive. Globally competitive, even in this 18,000 population town. We still have to think globally. Our kids are competing with every kid in America, in our school systems. One way or another, they're going to meet each other. And this is what we have to think. We cannot let the driving force that will create a great society in Springfield be something that's put on the back burner. I'm going to trust. I talked to the superintendent. I also talked to all the board members. I'm willing to work with them, understand me. Some of them invited me to come and sit down and talk to them and stuff like that and give them ideas. But we got to keep the feet to the fire because enough's enough. And I'm not going to sit here, okay, I'm not going to sit here, and I've been sitting here for 23 years and see the city that I love go down the drain because I want to sit back and let something happen that shouldn't happen. It goes against, and I'm winding down this, Mayor, it goes against, number one, our biblical principle, my people period for the lack of knowledge, and it goes against the Constitution of the United States of America, which granted the liberty. Now I'm coming from because I have been an educator in my own psychosocial type of discipline for 35 years. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not a bachelor level, I'm a master level with plenty of application, plenty of theory. And I know that the crippling effect of what we allowed to perpetrate for these many years have crippled some of our kids. So I encourage you, leaders, I encourage you to go back to your wards, talk this thing up, and let's drive with it. And I encourage the citizen to listen and stop selling yourself short for secondary and insufficient education. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Well said. All right, we move now to item 3.13. And this would be to take action on seeking a request for proposal for an electronic vote tabulation board for our meetings. Is there a motion that this be considered?
So move, motion.
Is there a second to Mr. Sneed's motion?
Second.
All right, Mr. Sneed, you want to comment on this before we go?
Seek FRPs, bring it back.
Okay. The county uses this type of instrument to record votes, and they'll ask you to vote, you vote. They'll ask if anybody want to change your vote, and then they record the vote. And that's similar to what the legislature does. Bobby Trotter, you were spent a long time over at the state capitol.
Oh, yeah, they have them up on the wall where everybody can see.
Okay.
Mr. Trotter, do they advertise on those? They don't accept advertising. I know at the county they advertise because they help contribute to the funding of it, but theirs was a lot, the county's is a lot bigger than what we will need. So I hope that we don't do any advertising. We can do it ourselves. It's the only thing I've got to say.
Okay. Everybody understand what he's proposing, that we get a proposal, send out requests for proposals to see what that would cost to record our votes. All right, this is to ask for a proposal. You're not voting to spend the money yet at this point. I'll call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
That's 7-0.
All right.
This
Second.
doesn't mean Connie lose her job, does it?
No, we're going to keep it. She's still going to oversee it in case it has some flaws in it. You know.
That's good.
The only thing I could add to it was add a debt clock to it. City, a county, a federal, and a state. Just add that to it and it'll
All
just
right,
change right in front of it.
314, discuss and possibly act on requiring a public referendum on any future property tax increase. Is there a motion on that?
So move 3.14.
Second?
Second.
I didn't hear the second.
Second.
Mr. Head. All right, Ms. Steed, you're wanting on any future property tax increase, you want the public to make the decision rather than the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Yes, most cities, communities who had a organization that was able to get enough signatures to force the referendum passed these things. It's rare to see the sitting body of elected officials voluntarily add something like this to a referendum because it handcuffs their ability to spend and with no consequence to being able to sometime later raise the money to pay for it. This puts more control back into the people that we serve, and I'm not afraid to give them that control.
All right, of course, that's why they send us here.
That's true,
And
but
if they don't like what we do, they can vote us out at the next election.
that is true. That's harder said than done, though.
Well, it has happened.
Mr. Mayor.
But I understand what you're saying. Any comments on that? Mr. Hubbard heard you first, and I'm going to move down through here.
Mr. Sneed.
No,
Just state
Okay.
how you feel about it. You would direct it to him.
Excuse me, I retract that.
Yep.
In the inception of city governments, okay, it is suggested that the practice and the establishment of tax rates have come from the governing body. That's one of our responsibilities. That's one of our responsibilities. See, so we are supposed to be the visionary. See, that's why they elect us. So I cannot, and furthermore, we are not really shunning any type of comments coming from the public. But I should have enough insightfulness to know if the taxes need to be raised. And furthermore, we have not really burdened our people with tax raises, so I don't know why we're griping over it.
Ms. Trotter, did you have something? Ann?
Mr. Mayor, this would be an extra cost to the city to have an election on every year.
Well, it would be every year that you wanted to do that, and then, of course, you would have a situation if you didn't, let's say it was a year in which there was no public election. There was no August primary and no, and there's a general election associated, but that's every, not every year. So yes, there would be costs. That's the reason that we changed our election cycle to coincide with the November election, so as to not be a cost associated with it. And we still, if there is a bond issue that is proposed, as was proposed for the college, and enough petitions are presented, as Mr. Sneed is well aware of, because he helped to get that passed, to get the referendum passed, to have the referendum, but you don't always get the desired vote. That was on the college, which was done several years ago, and of course the public voted it in by a substantial majority. So you don't always get the result that you want. But you have something else to say?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It didn't make a difference to me which way the result went, but the public was told that there would be no consequences to their taxes to spend this money, and that was misleading.
Well, you've said that many times, and we hear you and understand what you're saying. I do think if you're voting to, any time now, I know at one point before we built the golf course, there were some people who circulated a petition to call for a referendum then. I was in office when that was on. It didn't bother me a bit if we had the referendum, but they didn't get enough votes. But there is that there already where you're spending a major project where if there are enough petitions presented, enough names presented, that you can call for that. But to call for this every time you raise taxes a nickel or a dime, and especially with Springfield's record over the years of going a dozen years and longer without raising property taxes at all, this would seem unnecessary to me, and that's my opinion. Now, any other comments?
One last
Jeff,
comment.
let me go down this side, and then did you have anything to say? Bruce? No. Okay. All right, then. Let's call for, let's call.
I have one last statement.
All right, one other thing, then let's go.
To call for a referendum to impede the growth of your city is ludicrous. I'll shut up.
All right, please call the roll, Ms. Conlon.
Craig?
Who?
Craig?
Greg. Greg.
Yes. Hubbard?
This
This is to call for a public referendum before you raise taxes.
No.
Sneed?
Aye.
Snyder?
No.
Carneal?
No.
Trotter?
No.
Head?
Yes.
Failed 3-4.
Okay. All righty. Now, the next item, 3.15. And and that is to change our current practice of using the Robertson County Times for our public notices and advertising, and to change that to the Robertson County Connection. Is there a motion that that be considered?
So move 3.15.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Fails for lack of a second. We move now to 316, and that's to present the monthly report on the progress of work to comply with the stipulations of the EPA Administrative Order of Content. Roger?
One of the bigger things that was accomplished during this particular report, and this is for the period from January 14th through February 11th, is that we submitted quarterly report number 9 to the Environmental Protection Agency. That covered the activities from October through December of 2014. We've had a number of meetings with Gresham Smith and Partners. At some of them we talked about ongoing work on contracts 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. We talked about task orders 10 and 11 that y'all had just previously approved. Talked about upcoming task order 12, phases 4 and 5, and the tanks. We just cover a lot of areas during any particular 1 month period.
Okay. Did the this last rain event, rain, snow, sleet event, how did the overflow during that period of time? Was it still in good shape?
I don't know the numbers. I just neglected to get those.
Okay. Well, let us know about it. You will next time.
Okay, I will.
Any other questions or anything of Roger?
Keep doing a good job, Roger.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Fire Chief, you're going to present your annual report. We welcome you, Jimmy Howard.
Got a little of my blood in Texas. Boy.
I submit for your information review this annual report of the activities our department experienced in 2014. The department had its second busiest year with 2,780 calls for service. The Central Avenue Firehouse responded to 2,067 calls, and the David N. Greer Fire Station 2 responded to 713 calls, accounting for a little over 25.5% of the total. Station 2's calls for service increased 7.16% from 2013. I would like for a moment to expand on a few of the items in this report, in addition to items that are trending upward from previous years. If you would please turn to page 2. Page 2 is overlapping calls for service. This is defined as one or more calls for service before the previous call for service was completed. This chart shows an increase in percentages from 2012. We have at times, and you've probably heard us, where we have most of the time it's 2 of our engine companies going to 2 separate calls, and we have at times had all 3 of our engine companies responding to calls at nearly the same time. Page 9, please. Page 9 is the 2014 Estimated Value and Loss Report. And regarding an estimated building value, the department uses the International Building Code building valuation data and determine values pertaining to a particular occupancy that has experienced a fire. Occupancies include residential, business, educational, factory, etc., and the type of construction, whether it be fire-resistive, non-combustible, heavy timber, wood frame, or ordinary. Content values are estimated by a percentage of the building value. In some cases, especially involving business and factory, the contents exceed the value of the building. The 2.9% loss rate you see at the bottom of that sheet is fortunately very, very low, which we are real proud of. Pages 10 through 15 shows calls for service in the ward you represent. Ward 1 was the busiest, with 693 calls for service. Wards 5 and 6 calls for service are trending upward from previous years. Ward 6 experienced a new record with 413 calls for service last year. Page 18, please. Page 18 is wildland interface fires increased 62% from 2013. This is still far below the record 92 brush, grass, and leaf fires this department experienced in 1980. And page 22. Emergency medical calls for service. These calls represented nearly 71% of the total call volume last year, down 45 from the 2013 record number, down 45 from the 2013 record number of calls. Last year became the 10th anniversary for our department providing emergency medical first responder services to our citizens. Close, I believe you'll find this report, in addition to what I've mentioned, very useful and interesting. And I appreciate you allowing me to speak.
Chief Hamel, appreciate the thoroughness that you've provided in this report. I think we need to remember that the department holds a ISO rating, which is the rating that determines your insurance premium. Our rating is a Class 3.
Yes.
Class 1 is the very best. Class 3 is a very premium award and rating. And that means that, when we invest in the fire department, in terms of manpower, equipment, et cetera, along with our investment in the water that is provided, the water system, and the dispatch system, those three components make up our ISO rating.
Yes.
And when we invest in that, there is a direct return to the taxpayer in terms of the cost of their insurance for that dwelling or that business. Now, what is significant that if you don't believe it, it really helps. As somebody who lives in a Class 9 or Class 10 rating, what a $200,000 home is going to cost for insuring versus one that's in the Class 3 rating.
Yes, it's a
And you
huge
see
difference.
How much, where tax dollars do go. And we appreciate the good work that your department does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
There's one thing about the individual ward numbers, or wards changed a few years ago.
Yes, sir.
So these numbers are really, can they actually accurately be compared to the previous years since the wards moved?
The wards that you say, there is differences in that, especially in your ward, where some have gone down. Actually, Ward 4 has gone down, and where your ward has actually risen. However, in your particular ward, along with Mr. Head's ward there, you can see where it's progressed. It's not much of an increase, but it's steadily increased from 2012.
So there should be an asterisk or something beside some of them because the wards changed to compare to the previous years.
All we're doing is just showing the calls for service in the particular ward for the year and the previous.
I think the point being that the call volume continues to rise. We didn't set a record this year, but we were bumped up against the record for last year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
And
sir.
also my ward too, I got all a very diversified buildings. I got most of the industry and most of the banks and not so many residential.
Your ward has been the busiest for quite some
It's
time.
quite busy.
Used to be Ward 4 was the busiest ward for a few years until the changing of the districts or the wards. It put yours in a busier.
Seems like more activity sort of generates in my ward.
Yes, sir, it does.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Now let's look at item 3.18. This is to discuss and possibly take action on the approval of change order 1 to the American Infrastructure Technologies Corporation contract. And this is for Priority Basins Rehab Phase 1B, Basins 13 and 14. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Paul?
Mayor, I did want to say that the change order is a reduction of the contract amount by $204,992.30.
All right, is there any discussion on this matter? Please call the roll, Connie.
Trotter.
Yes.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal. Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Snyder. Aye. 7-0.
Similarly, 319 is the next item, and that's the same type of thing, and it's asking for the approval of the final payment application for said basins, et cetera. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Snyder. Aye. Carneal.
Aye. Thank you, Roger.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Has 7-0.
All right, the consent portion of the agenda has two items. One is to approve the bid to operate the concessions in the city parks and the center. The recommendation is for Randy Woody with a bid of 30% of gross sales. And the second item is 4.2 on the back side is to approve the backhoe off the state contract in the amount of $91,688. If you want to take it as a whole?
Move for total approval for
Right.
total consent.
Okay, with that, is it seconded?
Second.
All right, there's no discussion then, and we'll move forward on the vote.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder. Aye. Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Has 7-0.
All right, before Paul makes his report, I wanted to add to what Dr. Cherry said early on, in commending all of our city departments who carried on so well during the, in providing services to the citizens of Springfield during the recent snow and ice storm. Alan Ellis, your crew, on Monday morning when I got out the first Monday, you were plowing Main Street at 9 o'clock. I came back down at 11, we plowed it a second time because the snow and the sleet were alternating. About every 30 minutes it shifted from one to the other, and you continued to do this. And I had a lady call me this morning who lives down not too far from Springfield Middle School just to say how much she appreciated what had been done. And, you know, you don't get a lot of calls like that, and I thank that lady for it. But that was my view as I drove across town, and I covered quite a bit of it from out at the Legacy, out South Main, just a whole lot of the city. And it appeared that you all, and there's no way to get every street, we know that, but you did a heck of a job, and I know that some people work some awfully long hours, and we appreciate your service. Fire department, I know you all were quite busy. In fact, you told me one day this week you had 13 runs, or maybe that was last week, on one shift, and that's quite a run. And police department, I know fender benders and other things that you had to do along with your normal workload was heavy. And to our utility departments, thank you for keeping the electricity on and the gas flowing and the water and the wastewater facilities working properly. Tony Feldseidel, did you do something during that time? Okay, I don't want to leave you out. Did y'all have some ice hockey somewhere or something?
We run Springfield's largest daycare center.
Well, that's good too. Adam, did you all do anything during that time? Y'all just sat around, ate bonbons and ate coffee? I don't believe that either. Okay. Thanks to all of you for your hard work during that time. Paul?
Well, I'd like to echo that as well. Allen's people always do an exceptional job. Every time we have a snowfall, they keep up with the garbage, which is a real challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we were maybe a day behind, and I think they're pretty much caught up at this point. We do want to remind people this week that if we haven't picked up your garbage, put your extra garbage out. We're going to have the backpacking trucks so you can, back-loading trucks so that you can, rear-loading trucks so that you can put your extra garbage out. And please do that. We'll take care of that. And want to remind everybody that when we have emergency situations, we just can't close like other businesses. We have to be there for our citizens. And I know a lot of our employees, especially the emergency essential employees, many of them lived way out in the county. It was a real challenge to get in, but they came to work every day. Even a lot of people who had to work in the offices came in, did the best they could. Because they weren't necessarily emergency essential, we didn't keep them as long as we usually would, because frankly, we didn't have that many people coming to City Hall and city offices in that type of situation. But everybody performed magnificently, and I really appreciate the quality of the employees that we have and the dedication of the employees that we have. And lastly, I did want to say that we demolished 6 unsafe structures since January 1st. I think 4 by the city and 2 by the property owners. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, and let me remind you now that we will meet again next on March the 17th, and that's Tuesday night. If you come at 7:30 as you have been, you'll miss the meeting. So come at 6. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you might. It's pretty good tonight.